Temos o prazer de apresentar na seleção oficial desta 15ª edição do LEFFEST', fora de competição, o filme de Juho Kuosmanen, Compartimento número 6. O filme foi adquirido para Portugal, pela Legend Main, que vai estreá-lo em breve. E hoje o Juho está connosco e para nós é um prazer. Depois de uma estreia auspiciosa com o filme anterior em 2016, The Happiest Day in the Life of Olli Maki, que venceu no Sertão Regar, em Cannes. Este novo filme esteve este ano na competição do Festival de Cannes e foi também premiado com um grande prémio do júri, execo com outro filme, A Hero, do Asghar Farhadi, que também vamos ver durante o festival. Juho, it's a pleasure to welcome here in the festival.
Thank you. Thank
Would you
you
like
for
to say some words before the screening? We will be here for the Q&A in the end of the screening.
Yeah, maybe just thank you for LEFFEST' Film Festival to inviting the film, and thank you Legend Main to distribute the film. And yeah, this is my first time in Portugal. I'm so far enjoying a lot. And about the film, yeah, it's easy to talk after you've seen the film, but it's inspired by a novel by Rosa Liksom, very loosely. The novel happens in 80s. This film happens somewhere in the end of 90s. And there's, in the book they go to Mongolia, and here we go to Murmansk. But that's about it. I hope you enjoy the journey.
Okay, thank you. We'll see here at the end of the screening again for the Q&A. Have a good session.
Thank you.
Juho, as you said at the beginning, you were adapting or you were inspired by a novel. What attracted you in this novel to make this film?
I think there were several reasons, and well, first of all, it's a very cinematic novel. When you read it, you can see clearly some images and strong atmosphere in many moments of the book. But so I saw lots of possibilities for a film in the book. But at the same time, I felt that novels are so much wider than a film, that if you do a film based on a novel, you need to get rid of so many scenes, so many characters, so many places, that I was doubting quite a lot. Mm-hmm. But I was really interested to make a film in a train and in Russia. I think both of these places are very cinematic. And this kind of simple story of encounter with two characters was also interesting, but in the book there are much more than that. So yeah, for many years I was just like trying to avoid it, but I think the crucial moment was when I met Rosa Liksom, the author of the book, and she said that I'm free to do whatever I want. I can use the novel as a material. I don't have to copy the book into a film. So after that, film is
different, and
the whole way of storytelling in film is it's totally different.
But you mentioned that you love trains. Cinema started with a train arriving to the Gare in Lyon.
Actually, I had a funny moment few weeks ago in St. Petersburg when we had a screening in Lenfilm in an old Soviet studio, which was actually the first place where there was a screening of a cinema ever in Russia, 1896, and they showed films, for example, workers leaving the factory, and train arrives to the station, and then we we laughed at okay. And today we show like 125 years later, we show a film where workers go back to the factory and train leaves the station.
Yeah, but most of the film happens in this confined space of the compartment 6 that gives the title to the film. I guess it was very difficult to shoot because it's so narrow and.
Yes, it was difficult, but I think filmmaking is always quite difficult, and I think if you want to make things easy, it actually means that if that's the first value or first priority to make things easy, it means that you don't really care what you are doing, but here we were with DOP JP Passi, we were really strict that we want to shoot this in a moving train to really achieve. We try to achieve the feeling that you would be there in the same compartment. And this was kind of a main idea of the whole cinematography in the train scenes. We didn't want to break the compartment to make it wider or change any walls. The only wall that we cut out was the toilet wall because it was impossible to fit in. But the compartment is the way it is, and we felt that we might get like more variation, more maybe some nice better framing if we take the walls out and have possibilities to move the camera in a certain way, but at the same time it breaks the illusion of being in the same space with the actors or the characters.
These two characters, they are very, very, very interesting characters, and the actors they have magnificent roles. And when she goes to the compartment and meets this guy, at the beginning we think that he will harass her, but that's not it. And so as the film goes by, so they start creating this bond between them both. And even there is this Finnish guy. She helps him, believes in him, and in the end he takes her camera. But this guy that looks like someone very weird and different from her, the world she was used to and the people she was used to be with. How did you develop all this in the film?
Well, the first one when we started to write the script, and actually pretty long time, I always pitched the film that it's a film about two totally different kind of characters who are sharing this small space, and then little by little they start to recognize something similar in the other. But then when we did the casting, we already had the Finnish actress Seidi Harla, and then when we tried to do the scenes with Jura Borisov, the Russian guy, I understood that this is the film I want to make. I want to make this film with them. But at the same time, it was weird because Jura was not that different than Seidi. Actually, when I watched their picture, when I went back home, I was sure that I want to make this film with them, but it was not the same as the script. In the script, the guy was, first of all, much older, and I thought that they actually look like sister and brother in this picture. And then I realized that actually it's not a story of totally two different kind of characters, but it's a story of two exactly the same kind of characters, almost like same character, like twins or sister and brother or soulmates. But in the beginning they are hiding behind some kind of roles, or they are having this kind of a role of a Russian guy. It's not what he is, but he's hiding behind this kind of a almost a stereotype, and that's why they are so disconnected.
If we rewind, so at the beginning, the game they are playing in the house of Irina, when she asks about something that Marilyn Monroe said, so it will happen in the film.
Yes, yeah, that's.
There are unknown parts of the other, so I don't remember very well.
Yes, that only parts of us can ever touch only the parts of others. That we are never really like fully connected, but we are, because we are afraid to be seen, and because there's so much things we try to hide. Maybe we shame them, or I don't know, whatever the reasons are. But it's really it's a scaring to show yourself, the whole picture, and that's why we are usually like hiding most of us and only showing parts of us. But at the same time, it kind of disconnects people, because like if we can show the whole picture, then we are just connected with small parts. And in this film, and I think this is all because of the behavior, the learned way of how to be human, how to be a man, how to be a woman, how to be a Finnish, how to be Russian. And we learned all these things when we grow up. We are kind of learning to be more like, we are narrowing our own freedom in a way when we are learning to behave. And in this film, in the end, they are like kids who they don't have this kind of way.
At the end, we don't see the petroglyphs. The spectators of the film, when she arrives to the place where the petroglyphs are, you don't show them to us. Are these kind of something, a dream, something that is untouchable and only exists?
Well, the reason not to show them was that it's not actually her dream to go there. Was never really to see the petroglyphs. Well, she wanted that Irina is seeing her with the petroglyphs, because she wanted to be this kind of a figure who is somehow touched very strongly by seeing the petroglyphs, but she's not. So basically, the whole idea for her to go to this trip was just to please Irina, to be a person who Irina would admire. But when Irina says in the beginning that actually I'm not coming, or like she already knows that she's not coming, the whole point of the trip is lost. It's a kind of a stolen dream. You copy this dream to see the petroglyphs just to please the other, just to find like, we have this common interest. But actually, I don't believe that she ever had that interest. But in a way, she goes to this trip to be seen as a figure who is kind of a intellectual, like a better version than she is. And I think that's something that Juho sees in the end. Like there is a person seeing her in this place, seeing her as something special. And that was her need.
Okay, I think we can open now this conversation to the audience.
I would like to know if you ever been in a compartment, like in a train travel like that, and you had something similar, experienced something similar to that, or you want to do it now.
Yes, I have had this kind of experiences, not necessarily in a train. So I think it's, but like this kind of short encounters that actually stayed with you. You still remember somebody that you just shared a small ride or just some moments. I think those kind of encounters I have. Now I remember at least one in a train. But yeah, everything is not like it's. Even though it's based on a book or inspired by a book, I think the reason why I was inspired by this book or why I was interested in the first place, I think it always has to do something that I didn't just saw a film there. I saw something that I could recognize, something I could relate, and then. Actually, the whole script writing process is about trying to find why am I interested in this. I never had like exactly that kind of experience, but I have had, I think, all the emotions that are there. I can understand them. At least I've experienced something like that. I think it's you can't really direct something you don't understand, so it's necessary to not to have the exact experience, but to understand the feeling. I mean, somebody said that if some person has ever left you, you can do a film about the experience when God is leaving you, like a what was this like? Yeah, you can always exaggerate things and you can put them in a different place, but you have to understand something about the feeling.
Further questions, please.
Hello, good evening. Here, congratulations on the movie. I don't know when the book was written, but usually when people travel, they don't travel without their cell phones, but neither of the two characters seems to have a cell phone or something like that, or like a technological device. Did you think about that when doing the movie, that it's kind of strange that they don't have a cell phone?
Yeah, well, the novel actually takes place in 80s, but we changed a lot from the novel, and one thing is the decade. So this film happens somewhere in the end of 90s, before the cell phones were everywhere, and surely before the smartphones, because I felt that the distance of things has changed after the smartphones. The idea of a journey has changed in a way, like because you're never, I mean, you are alone, but you are somehow connected to your own virtual environment nowadays. Even though you travel, you can be sitting in a cafe, but you're mostly like, it's so easy to escape to your just staring at your phone. So I think in a way this kind of thing couldn't happen these days. And also you don't need other people as much as you did 20 years ago.
You mean these days you cannot, so you can be here, but at the same time be at home. So you just go to a cafe and speak and see your friends, your family that are in Helsinki, for instance. And in this time, for her, it was even difficult to reach Irina because she usually didn't answer her phone calls.
Yes, it's like everything was a bit more far away. I think the scale of a world is smaller nowadays.
We now all live in compartment number 6.
Yeah, we are all the time very easily connected. And also when if we need help, it's easier to Google or check it from your phone than to go towards another person to ask help.
Further questions?
When you see the movie at the beginning, it's like I felt that you will have a tragedy at the end. But it doesn't happen. Maybe it's me, I don't know. But I don't know if you had something in your mind about the book and that you want to transmit this.
Well, in a way, it's the way it is meant to be. Of course, I mean, we all have lots of ready-made narratives in our mind because we've seen films. I think in the beginning, when you see two person in the same space, you think something good will happen or something bad will happen. In this case, it's like either they fall in love or the guy rapes her. These are the most common narratives in film. But I wanted to avoid both of these. But yeah, in the beginning we are kind of giving these kind of expectations because it's also her expectations. She's a little bit afraid of what will happen in the end. And it's like going over your own fears. It's one of the ideas of the film. Like you are going towards something a bit scary, and then you realize that there was no reason to be afraid. So in that sense, it is something we try to do. But at the same time, I didn't want to do a film or narrative where the main tension of the film is based on the fear that the audience would be all the time afraid what will happen to her. Mm-hmm. Because then you start to look her just as a potential victim, but not as a human being.
But at the same time, we who are seeing the film, we start also to understand the character of the young Russian boy, and also feel that he is a good guy.
Yeah, I wanted to. This is a quite big change from the novel, because in the novel it's not like that. This is more nightmarish, the whole trip. But here, yes, I wanted him to kind of be pretty fast turning into a nicer guy, that we wouldn't be afraid of what will happen to her. Like we could see something else than just a threat. Because I think this film is lots of like sometimes the characters in the film are just elements of storytelling. Like there's a good guy, a bad guy, and then but I really tried to tell a story about human beings who are not, I mean, we have a predefined ideas of the other, but in the end I wanted to go through those predefined ideas and break them to see what's a human being, and not even a Russian or Finnish, or not even a man and a woman, but just a human being.
And when you travel by train, or when you used it to travel by train in the 80s, in the 90s, you were kind of available to what could happen. You had this. Now, these days, people usually organize their traveling, so they have a schedule that they usually follow minute by minute, and in these kind of journeys, you were there and to see what could happen.
Yes, I really enjoyed this kind of long distance train journeys where you're not just moving from place A to place B, but you are actually there. You are spending time there. At least you should spend like one night, but it gets even better if you can stay 2 nights. Because then you kind of settle to that place. It's not just a vehicle that takes you somewhere, but it's actually a space. But at the same time, it doesn't belong to anybody. It's just a common space for everybody. That's why I like trains a lot, and especially long distance trains. And I think that's also the reason why they are so used in films, because it has a certain kind of atmosphere.
Okay, I think, so it's only time for one last question. There, and then we have to finish. No? Okay, I'm sorry, but there is. So you can ask. Maybe that person can ask you the question outside, because we have to go out because there's another screening in 10 minutes. Thank you, Juho. Thank you all.